You know how if you're scrolling on Facebook or on Instagram, those pictures can make RV life look like a non-stop postcard. They can. Beautiful sunsets and Labrador retrievers, and even better, no breakdowns. Zero. It always looks great till reality sets in. That's when you're sidelined at a campground with a broken RV that may smell like dirty gym socks and you got a plumbing issue. Well, today we're talking with my friend Scott Stonehill at PPL Motorhomes, an RV consignment powerhouse that, get this, they actually want you to know the flaws before you buy. We'll be diving into the stuff that many RV buyers simply don't even know to ask. We'll talk about what as is really means. We'll talk about the inspection you need versus the inspection you think you got, what full-time use does to a coach, and how a little discipline up front will save you a pile of pain later. If you're an RV buyer, a dreamer if you will, welcome. I'm the RV Wingman. I'll cheer your dream and I'll try and help you tap the brakes a bit when the noise gets too loud. While you're watching today's video, I hope you'll let me know in the comment section, what is one question you wish you would have asked before your last big purchase? What's one question you wish you would have asked before your last big purchase? Also, if you'd like to find my trusted RV dealers, folks that you can trust too, scan the QR code you see over here or click the link down in the description. All right now, let's go ahead and get started and learn how to buy smart so you can camp happy. I want to get this out of the way first, Scott, that I work with PPL. We have a great relationship together. We would love people to choose PPL to do some business with, but I want you, for anybody that doesn't know what PPL does in terms of consignment, we're going to be talking about buyers today primarily, but where does PPL fit in the marketplace? Because there's a lot of RV dealers selling used RVs. What's the pitch, if you will? And then we're going to get into what's good for buyers, no matter where you're going to buy from.
Well, I think for us, one of the big pluses for people out there looking to buy an RV is the detail that we go into with sellers, people who want to sell their RV, because that's the majority of our inventory is our consigned units that people are wanting to sell, and we're trying to help them do that. So we're asking a lot of really detailed questions from the sellers on their unit specifically so that we can convey a lot of those good points to the buyers and give them a lot of information that they normally, I don't think, would get from a traditional dealer. Most traditional dealers are going to trade for their used inventory. We do some of that, but the majority of our used inventory is going to be consigned. So those sellers are going to give us a lot of detail about that unit that they may not get anywhere else.
So typically, because there's used RVs everywhere. I mean, just drive down the road and every dealer's got, it seems like a huge inventory of used RVs.
Right.
Why choose PPL? I mean, I know all the, 53 years, you're so great, and you're all those things, but why choose PPL to buy a used RV from instead of some other dealer that may be, a bigger dealer, better known?
Well, let me ask you a question about your question, right? If
Yeah.
I'm going on to a traditional dealer's lot and I ask things like, this used unit, how many owners has it had? They're probably not going to know.
Right.
They probably are not going to have that information. Do you know if the previous owner used it as a full-time residence, or did they use it for vacations or weekend trips? How was it used? They're probably not going to know. What you're going to get at a traditional dealership is you're going to get basically what your eye sees, the condition that your eye sees, the information that you can physically see and touch on that unit. You're going to get from PPL is you're going to get much more detail about that unit, maintenance histories, how many owners has it had? Is the previous owner the one that owned it from the time it was new? How did they use that unit? Where did they go in that unit? Did they use it for weekend trips? Did they use it for long vacations? Did they live in the unit? Did they have pets? Did they smoke? All of those things you're going to know because it's the detail that we ask anyone who's wanting to sell a unit through us, and even the people that we end up buying the unit from, we get all of that information up front so that we can make a great decision on pricing, right? And helping them price the unit. All of our units are going to have a really detailed appraisal talking about where that unit should be priced in the market. So when you go onto PPL's website and you're looking at pricing, there's a lot of thought and detail that went into pricing that unit and putting it right in the market. Most people are not going to look at that unit if the price is not correct.
You, man, you
I know
just
I said a lot.
No, you said it's good. This is good. I want to back up for a minute, though. It's
Sure.
so important. Some of the answers to those questions, something
Right.
so simple. Did they ever live in it full time? I mean, that's huge. And if a dealer has bought it from an auction or just took it on a trade, they don't know. And
Yeah.
all I know as a buyer is what it looks like, and they can do a little detailing and put a new mattress in and good to go. But it ain't
Mhm.
necessarily that way. And so how do you know these things? How do you know the condition of these? And I know this is a rhetorical question, but because you talk to the sellers who you're representing, so go over
Yeah.
that if you would.
Well, and just real quick, it's on this sheet, right?
Uh-huh.
This gold card we use with every seller, and it's filled out completely by the appraiser on that listing appointment. So we find out all the things like, obviously name, address, phone number, so we know who owned it. We know all of that. We've got the year, make, model, all of those things, the size of the engine if it's a motorhome, how many slides it has, whether it's got diesel generator, propane generator, gas generator, the exterior type, whether it's got a Texas title or not. Obviously we've got 4 stores in Texas, but now we're doing business outside of Texas with 2 of our locations. So, where is the title from? That's important as well. Vehicle condition, are they the original owner? If they're not the original owner, did they buy it from the original owner? So are there 2 owners, and how long have you owned it? Those
But
types
but
of things.
but
We ask all of those questions.
it isn't some of that information though any dealer's going to have. I mean, the
Correct.
year, the VIN number, and all that. But it's where you ended and where you said, "Are you the original owner?" And you start digging deep into. Do you ask maintenance questions? When was the last time you did this? How detailed do you get with the seller? Because I'm a buyer. I want the best deal I can get,
Right.
and to do that, the more information I can get on the unit that I'm looking at, the better. How deeply does your appraiser go when a seller pulls into PPL and you guys are doing the assessment? You don't just give it the 5 minute looks good to me and here's the price. You kind of go through it a lot.
We dig pretty deep, and we were going to ask questions like maintenance history. When was on motorhomes? When was the last time the fluids were changed? Oil changes done regularly. Do you have any maintenance records about those things? If they do, then we scan that information into our system so that we have that for the next person that wants to purchase that. We ask questions about, as you stated, did they live in it full time? We know that the condition of something that was lived in full time, say for 5 years, and a 5-year-old travel trailer, fifth wheel, or motor home that was only used for weekend trips or vacations is going to be much different. We ask questions like, is the furniture original? Are the appliances original? You got a 10-year-old motorhome and the appliances are still original. There's a good chance that in the next year, 2 years, 3 years that you own that, there's going to be a need to replace one or more of the appliances at that point. So we ask a lot of those questions, very detailed, and we get a lot of that information because it's important for us to have that in order for us to price correctly.
Can we talk a little bit about inspections? Because and it's
Mhm.
there's as it we can talk about as is, what as is means, and what an inspection means, because those are pretty important if I'm going to be buying an RV.
Yes. Yes, we do a 20-point inspection, right, on the units. Now, because we're representing the seller and the buyer, in this transaction. The buyer actually has the opportunity to purchase this inspection. So we sell that inspection to the buyer, and we go through the generator, the DC power converter, the refrigerator. We get temperature readings on the refrigerator and the freezer. If it's got an ice maker, we do temperature readings on the ice maker. If it's got a range oven microwave, we check for proper operation on all of those things. The roof air conditioners, we get temperature readings on the air coming in and coming out of that air conditioner to see if the temperature gaps are proper. We do a furnace check. We check the fresh water system and the water pump to make sure that they're working properly. We check the toilets, the dump valves, the holding tanks to make sure that they are working as they're supposed to and not leaking. We check the water heater to make sure it's working properly. We check all the slide out motors to make sure that they're operating as designed. We check electric steps for functionality. We check hydraulic and electric brakes to make sure that they're working properly. We check the headlights, the turn signals, the brake and marker lights, and also the windshield wipers. All of those things are checked on our inspection.
Independent third-party inspection is something different. And if somebody wanted to get that, I guess they could pay extra to get an independent third-party inspector. But before we talk about that, it seems to me, because you do repairs and service work on these RVs.
Yes.
When you take a RV in on consignment, travel trailer, motorhome, whatever it is, you guys do pretty much an assessment. I mean, you can't do a super deep dive, but you can notice things like if a slide out's not working properly, if the roof needs to be repaired or sometimes replaced. And you make money on that. I mean, so it's in your best interest to not hide anything from PPL standpoint.
Correct.
You want happy customers, and to be happy, you got to know all the stuff that you can know.
Well, and we tell all of the sellers that these are the items that we're going to check for the buyer and make sure that those things are working at the time they take delivery. The other thing that we do is we video all of our inspections. So we have a video available to the buyer and to the seller of our inspection and what we found. So all of that detail is on video for them as well. So we can show the seller at the time that we did that inspection when something didn't work. And it's much more reasonable for them to want to fix that item because it's not working at the time of delivery, because we're able to show them a video and say, here's where we turned on your air conditioner, your roof air, and here are the temperature readings, and we're showing them the temperature readings, and it's not blowing cold enough air to cool the RV. So we're able to show them that this needs to be fixed.
And you can make those price adjustments. So you make price adjustments based upon the seller, what the seller's needing to do, and maybe they might not want to fix that air conditioner. So it's got to be reflected in the price. So from a buyer's perspective, that's important information to know. And if they get a discount and say, hey, PPL, can you fix the AC before we pick it up? I imagine you guys are good to go with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've done price adjustments in that respect where the seller says, look, I don't have the money to fix the item, but I'll do a price reduction. If you can take $1,000, $2,000 off the selling price and then let the buyer bear the burden of repairing that air conditioner. And most buyers would be willing to do that. And we would give them an estimate on what it would take to replace that air conditioner at that point. And they'll say yes or no. And most cases, they'll go ahead and do that.
What do you wish most people knew that were going to buy a used RV? What do they need to know? Hey, it's a used RV, or what do they? What's kind of mindset should they have to approach the purchase of a used RV versus a new one? Because a dealer who sells new is going to obviously prefer to sell those new ones. I mean, they make a lot of money on them, but you save a lot of money on a used. But what's the mindset from a buyer's perspective? How do I need to enter the market? Because they all kind of look pretty nice. You're not going to put a used RV out there that looks like crap. You're going to at least do a little detail on it.
I think every dealer is going to go through the used inventory that they have as it shows up. They're going to check to make sure that the items are functional. I think they're going to detail the unit. They're going to wash it on the outside. They're going to put some tire shine on it. They're going to clean the inside. They're going to make it look as good as they possibly can. And that's the right thing to do. But deeper than that, from a buyer's perspective, I want to know as much about that RV as I possibly can. We've talked about whether a full-timer lived in that thing. We've talked about how was it used before? Were they the original owner? What kind of condition is the furniture in? Is it the original furniture? All of those questions are very valid. And I think you have to ask a lot of questions. Most dealers are going to have it looking and standing as tall as possible. So from an eyeball perspective, it's going to look good or as good as it can. But from a knowledge perspective, we need to ask all of those questions, because most people don't. Most people don't ask those questions. They're going to ask questions about, is there any warranty? Nobody's warranting used RVs. Even dealers don't warranty new RVs. The manufacturer does. Right? So the manufacturer is responsible for the warranty on a new one, not the dealer. The dealer will service it. But on a used RV, there's no warranty. It's an as-is situation. And you're going to sign a document basically stating that you understand that there are no implied or inherent warranties on this unit, and you're taking it as it sits. Now, most dealers will offer you an extended service contract to cover that unit. That's up to the buyer whether or not they want to take one to protect that investment. But for the most part, we want you to leave the dealership knowing that everything that we told you would be working is working, and we do the walkthrough to show you that.
It stuns me how many people buy from the wrong dealer. I'm not going to name anybody, but there's some good dealers and some bad dealers. They buy an RV they thought was this, but then after they get off the lot, some of the basic things weren't even checked by the selling dealer, to make sure that the air conditioner is cooling down properly. I mean, the buyer just makes these assumptions that are incorrect. And while they do buy an as-is RV from PPL, at least you've gone through and you've checked things out. I mean, you've done.
Oh, and we have right, and we have video to show you. As we were checking it out, we video the whole thing. So every item that we're checking, there's video of us checking that item and what it was doing at the time we were checking it out. So we know in that moment that it was working.
Question. I think you probably do this often, but I talk to some people that live out of state. One guy was in Wyoming, ended up coming to buy a motorhome from your Cleburne location. Mm-hmm. And the salesperson went and did like a FaceTime, walking through with the customer. Is there any smell? You walk in, because some of these RVs, got pets, and you can only hide those stinks for so long. Is there any smell? They do a walk around, whether you do a thorough walk around to save that person from driving or flying all the way down to PPL in Texas to make a purchase, when all the salesman had to do was be honest and say, it smells like cigarette smoke. Or
yeah, I would hate for anyone to travel any great distance and us not be completely honest with them from the very beginning. I want them to know not just all the good things about that RV, but I also want them to know the things that we found during our inspection that could be issues when they get there. Most of them are cosmetic issues that we talk about, and I tell every sales associate that we have, send them a video or get on FaceTime and talk to them and show them if it's got a scrape down the side because the previous owner bumped up against something. Show them that. Let them know that when they travel 200, 500, 1,000 miles to buy this thing, that it's going to have that scrape. Because to us, that's a cosmetic issue. It's not something that we're going to fix on a used unit. So they need to understand that that's going to be there when they show up. I don't want them to show up after traveling that distance and be shocked by something we should have disclosed to them from far away.
That seems so obvious. It seems so obvious. And I know you do it, but you have to understand the paranoia many buyers feel, because
Sure.
there are horror stories out there. I just interviewed a guy that was in Massachusetts, flew down to Virginia based upon he's going to buy a used Class A motorhome from a big dealer. That the thing was, it had horrible issues, and all the salesperson
Hmm.
had to do was say, "Look, this is going to need some work. You know, the soft floor and mold over here, a little bit of, but be honest." And so I don't blame the buying public for being skeptical. Scott Stonehill, I don't blame them at all.
One of our locations, well, actually where I'm at today in El Reno, Oklahoma, we do a very good job here of selling older diesel motorhomes. And I'm talking 15, 20-year-old diesel pushers. And the reason that we do well with them, number one, is there are a lot of people out there that are wanting diesel pushers that were produced prior to the emissions guidelines, so they don't have to mess with the DEF fluid that diesels now have to have. And most people are now used to that with diesel pickups and things like that. But before, I think, 2007, you didn't have DEF fluid in these units. And so we sell a lot of '04, '05, '06 diesel pushers in our El Reno location. But the reason we're successful in doing that, number one, there are people looking for those units and they're looking for a deal. And so we're getting them priced very competitively. And we talk about that in our videos with our customers, and we show them the things that maybe aren't cosmetically, these things are 20 years old. They may have 20-year-old furniture in it. We want them to know that the furniture is original. We want them to know that the carpet may be a little bit worn because it's 20 years old. These are things, though, that they're willing to overlook because the price is right. And so we're pricing it based on that condition, and we're showing them that before they drive, hundreds of miles to come and buy this unit. But we do very well with used diesel pushers in this market because we're so honest with them. We also give them as much information as the seller will provide us, and that's why we ask all those questions. We also let them know that if any appliances have been replaced. Wouldn't you like to know if the air conditioners that are on the roof of this 20-year-old unit are maybe only 3 or 4 years old because they've been replaced already? I think that's an important thing to find out. As the water heater, is it 20 years old or has it been replaced at some point? And how old is it? I think all of those questions need to be answered. And I think we try to provide as much of that as we possibly can. If the seller provides that information, because we're going to ask the question, if the seller provides that information to us, then we're going to pass that along to the buyer.
Help me out in understanding. Give me some finance basics, finance 101 when I'm going to finance a
Sure.
used RV. What do I need to maybe know in today's business climate, with the market doing what it does? And talk to me about financing.
Well, financing right now, I think the banks have done a really good job. We've seen some interest rates coming down. And again, interest rates are going to be based on a lot of different factors. It's not just your credit score, it's also going to be on the value of the unit, it's going to be on the age of the unit, it's going to be on how much money you're putting down on the unit and how much you're going to be what they call loan to value. What the value is and what the loan is that you're asking for. So interest rates are very competitive right now in our industry. And I think we're doing a really good job of being able to get people financing, even on the older units. They used to say that you couldn't get financing on units that were over 8 years old, 10 years old. We're getting financing through a couple of our lending institutions that we do business with on units that are 15 and 20 years old for those people that need it. My recommendation is you want to put yourself in a good position financially. You want to be able to have a good equity position. You need to put a significant amount of money down. And what I mean by significant, 20, 30% minimum put down on any purchase that you're making on an RV. I think originally you'll hear the term 10%. I try to encourage people to put more down because 2, 3 years down the road, if you're wanting to trade or sell that unit, you want to be in a position where you don't have to come out of pocket with any more money at that point.
That is so important. I love that mindset that you don't have to put that much down if you can qualify. But just, for somebody, if they're able to put as much down as possible, put a lot down. What are your thoughts on a couple things? One is having a fix-it fund of going in with the mindset of, you know what, I'm getting ready to spend 50 grand or 150 grand. I need to have some percentage set aside just in case, because Murphy's Law is going to apply. I'm going to have some repairs, and I don't want to be broke when those repairs happen. What are your thoughts on having a fix-it fund?
Well, I think it's a great idea, and I think you need to try to put aside, it's kind of like your emergency fund for your normal household expenses, right? You want to make sure you have an emergency fund. It's the same thing for an RV. And when you look at an RV, especially a motorhome, you got a combination of, a chassis, an engine, transmission, plus you've got all the house stuff, meaning the water heater, the furnace, the air conditioners, the refrigerator, the microwave. All of those things over time are either going to need to be repaired or replaced. And so you've got to have that money set aside to be able to do those things as those things come up. I think that's so important that you put aside some money for just normal maintenance, as well as, hey, I may need to, especially if I'm buying a used unit that's 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. At some point, I'm probably going to have something that's going to need to be replaced or repaired, and that's going to take a little bit of my budget and be able to do that. So yes, definitely set up a fix-it fund. I like that term that you use there. Fix-it fund would be good.
Yeah, I also think my advice is you've got to have your head right. Like I said, you talk about mindset is so important. It's a used RV. All RVs are going to break down. I hear horror stories about people, they buy even a new RV and they take off on a 1,000-mile trip on the first day. And I said, don't
Yeah.
do that. Camp at a real close to where you live, maybe in your front yard if you don't get thrown out of the neighborhood. Get to learn
I tell everyone, if you've got a nice campground, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 miles from the house, make a reservation and go stay there for a few days, right? Spend a weekend there. Take one of your weekends and say, let's go camping locally. Let's go try this out. If you're 30 minutes from the house, it's a safe space, right? You don't have to worry about driving hundreds of miles to get back home, and because the RV had an issue or whatever. And invariably, if it's the first RV that you've ever owned, there are going to be things that you don't remember from the walkthrough that you were given at the dealership. There are things you're going to forget. It's really, really safe to be close to home for that first couple of times, maybe to go camping, so that when you do take that longer trip, you've got a lot more familiarity with the RV that you own now, and you're going to feel a lot more comfortable taking that long trip. Every RV that I've ever owned, I take it down to the coast. It's about a 3-hour trip, and I go camping over there at a particular RV park that I like. And in fact, I just got notified from a customer of ours from Cleburne, as a matter of fact, that I dealt with about a year ago. And they finally made it to the RV park over on the coast at Port Aransas that I recommended to them. And they sent me photos of their camping trip and said they had a great time. So they just wanted me to know that they had gotten over there and used that RV park. So I was real happy to see that. They texted me, it was actually yesterday, to tell me about it. So it was kind of cool.
I think that camping close to home, maybe 2 or 3 times, is critically important, because every RV, every one I've ever owned or been in, they got their little quirks. They all have their little issue, little noise, little thing. And it's, some of them you can live with, and some of them are like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to tend to that pretty quickly. And you've got to spend the time to do that and learn what the toy that you got, your RV, before you just pile the family and the dogs and y'all go on, like I said, 1,000-mile adventure.
Yeah. I have a niece that I sold her a toy hauler, a big fifth wheel toy hauler that you can haul four-wheelers, you can haul motorcycles in the garage area in the back. And she had never owned an RV before. Her and her husband were using this RV. And within about the first 6 months, she had become an expert going on YouTube and watching all the videos that were available on YouTube and learning how to dump the holding tanks and learning about the inverter and learning about all the batteries and what how to check the batteries and how to check your uh, tanks to make sure that they're dumped properly and just all the different things that could be done on that. And within about 5 or 6 months, she was an expert on how to utilize her RV. But that was before, 6 months they went camping, close to home and did a few things. But then they took a long trip, with their kids for the summer, and they had a great time. But they were prepared for that trip from all the little small trips that they took in between. So it was really good. But she knew a lot about her RV, but she studied and was prepared. So she knew more than her husband did, which was great.
It's so rewarding to learn how to do that stuff. And at the time, it can be a pain in the butt to how leaky this or whatever, but you learn and it gives you such confidence. I know that some of what we're talking about has nothing to do with buyers or sellers or advertising
Right.
PPL, but to me, an RV offers so much benefit for kids and grandkids. And it's not just, okay, sometimes grandpa and grandma will fix everything up and they're going to get the grandkids, and the grandkids, they join, they go for camping and it's fun. But to have more fun, it's a good idea, I think, to involve them in the getting ready. You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
go and check the such, and we're packing, make a list, start writing things down. It's part of the fun of the whole experience of RVing.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to grow up with parents that had an RV, and we went camping in the summer almost every weekend. And I remember my brother and I each had our specific chores when we got to camp that we were supposed to take care of. Everybody had their thing to do. My mom took care of the stuff on the inside of the camper. My dad took care of stuff on the outside. My brother and I had our chores that we were doing, and it just made the whole trip that much more enjoyable. But the whole setup process was a family affair. So it was a lot of fun. And I think more and more young families are finding that this is a great adventure. I think that there are more and more as we've gone through the years now, and I've been in the RV business for 35 plus years. Um, I'm seeing more and more young families getting involved again, and I think that's a great thing. I think the more you can do with your children on things like this, it creates a tighter bond with families, and I think it's really important that they do those types of things. So it's been a wonderful journey for me going through the RV industry all these years. My kids have gotten to enjoy it. I got to enjoy it as a kid when I was younger because my parents did it. But I think it's a wonderful way to travel and see the country. I think it's a great way to go out on weekends and have fun and do things as well. But you see more and more our buyer now. The staple in the industry is people, young families with kids that are anywhere from 5 to 15 years old, and they're going camping and having a great time. You see more and more RV parks being built in order to accommodate. You make reservations for the weekend, and you better make them in advance. It's worse than hotels. Some of them get filled up pretty fast because people are finding out that this is a great way to enjoy things. And it really is a lot of fun.
It does my heart so good to talk to your customers and people that have done business with PPL for 20 or more years. They have bought and sold and sold and bought, and that they don't feel like customers, they feel like family, and they have these stories. And I don't know, it's like you said, there's no better way to connect and bring that family together and make those memories. And we've talked in the past about, you go through these phases in your life. You start out, you get this RV and it's not big enough, then you get another one and another one, and you guys just fill that gap. You help sellers, get out of their RV, you help buyers get into one, and the price is 10%. That's probably one of my favorite things about transparency is the buyer knows how much money PPL's making off of them buying
Right.
an RV.
Yes, they do. And we're very proud of the fact that we've been doing that at a 10% rate for many, many, many years now. And we have no plans on changing that. It works for our business model. It's a fair price for us to do that work. And I think it's fair for the sellers as well. And the buyers we're just as transparent with the buyers on that portion as well. So, you were talking about people over the years. I'm going to mention Julie in our Houston store. You know Julie very well. She's been working with sellers for many, many years, and she sets appointments for them to come in to get with the appraisers in order to sell their units. She's got one client that she's been working with, and she mentioned to me the other day that this is his 8th RV that we're going to sell for him, and then he's going to buy another one from us, and he's done this 8 times now, right?
I talked to him.
Yes.
It was amazing. I
Yeah.
said, I asked him, I said, did you go anywhere else to look around? He goes, why should I? I like, you don't even want to shop. He says, I trust them. And that's what, like I said, it does my heart good to hear those stories of people that have done many, like, well, I sold through once or I bought through them once, but it's that repeat customer base that you guys have built on that
Correct.
10% fee. And anyway, well, listen, thank you for joining me today. I hope that the viewers got something out of this. Would I like people to buy or sell through PPL? Of course I would. But I want them to make the right decision. I think you do as well.
I do. I really do. And I appreciate the time we get to spend to do this because I think, even if they don't buy from us, and I do want them to buy from us,
Right.
I want them to ask these questions from wherever they're buying. And hopefully they get those answers because I think on a pre owned RV, I think those questions are extremely important. And if the dealer can't provide you that information, I would think twice about maybe where I'm buying from because I think where you buy is just as important as what you buy.
All right, so here's the deal. When you buy an RV, whether used or new, I want you to win. Not just on delivery day, but 6 months later, when the honeymoon is over and that first little gremlin shows up. The truth? Used RVs are kind of like people, and their stories do matter. Who owned it? How was it used? What's been fixed? What hasn't? PPL's model works so dang well because they collect those stories and they show their work. But even then, remember, as is as is. And that is where your mindset, your fix-it fund, and a third-party inspection can become peace of mind. If you've not already done so, let me know your I wish I would have known lesson before you made your last major purchase. Drop it in the comments so everybody else can learn. They can learn cheap instead of learning hard. Finally, don't forget links to PPL Motorhomes and other great RV dealers can be found on my free resources page to access. See that QR code over here? Shoot it with your phone or find the link right down here and click on it. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home.